Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Forgotten Asylum series. Today we're going to travel to Tennessee and explore the abandoned Blackwood Asylum. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes. In the heart of Tennessee, nestled amidst rolling hills and whispering pines, stands Blackwood Asylum, or what remains of it. Today, Blackwood Asylum is nothing more than ruins. Trees and vines choke its crumbling walls, and the iron gates are rusted and bent. But even now, people claim the land is cursed. Campers nearby have reported seeing flickering lights in the windows at night, despite there being no electricity. Others have heard faint, desperate screams carried by the wind. But perhaps the most disturbing account comes from a local photographer who managed to sneak inside the asylum grounds in 1999. When his film was developed, one photograph showed something that shouldn't have been there. Dozens of pale figures crowding the hallway, their mouths open in silent screams. Yet he swore he had been completely alone when he took the shot. From that day forward, he never spoke about the asylum again. Now, this isn't the only strange story surrounding this place. This is the story of Blackwood Sanitarium. Before becoming the site of unimaginable horrors, the land that would later become Blackwood Asylum was nothing more than rolling farmland and forest. But all that changed in 1859 with the construction of the Tennessee State Lunatic Asylum, or the Tennessee Asylum for the West, which would be known as Blackwood Asylum for short. Like many similar institutions of the time, it was intended as a place of healing and refuge for those suffering from mental illness, a place where they could be cared for and reintegrated into society once they were well again. It wasn't until years later that the true purpose of such facilities became clear. A place of healing soon turned into a prison, a place for the criminally insane. The overcrowding, understaffing, and lack of funding forced these institutions to operate under the harshest of conditions. Patients would spend years, if not decades, in restraints, left to their own devices with little to no human contact. Some suffered horribly from untreated illnesses, while others simply withered away, forgotten in the darkest corners of these great asylums. Blackwood Asylum was no exception. When it first opened, the asylum seemed to be a beacon of hope, boasting spacious rooms and an abundance of staff. There were also a number of outbuildings, including a farm, which would help keep the asylum somewhat self-sufficient. Over time, the condition of the buildings began to decline, but it wasn't until a fire broke out in 1894 that the state decided to finally address these issues. During the fire, which burned down one of the asylum's main buildings, the staff were caught completely off guard, forcing them to evacuate 600-plus patients without any proper system in place. The evacuation led to numerous injuries, with many patients wandering into the woods, never to be seen again. After the fire, the state realized the extent of the problems plaguing the institution. They hired a new superintendent and brought in an architect to assess the damage. The architect recommended tearing down the burnt building and replacing it with 2 new structures. It wouldn't be long before construction began on the new buildings, which were modeled after Kirkbride Plan, a type of mental hospital building design that had become quite popular during that time period. But what made these plans so effective was also their fatal flaw. See, the plan called for the buildings to be one large structure, connected by wings that would extend from the central building. While this provided a large amount of space, it presented a problem when it came to crowd control and security. The long, narrow hallways often extended beyond the sight of the guards, allowing patients to hide and potentially harm themselves or other patients. And that's exactly what happened at Blackwood Asylum. In 1927, a young girl named Josie Carter wandered off while visiting her brother, who was a patient at the asylum. As she walked through the long, empty corridors, she began to feel a sense of dread wash over her. Suddenly, she heard a noise behind her, She turned and saw a tall, gaunt man with wild eyes standing in the doorway. Josie screamed and ran, but the man was quick and soon caught up to her. He grabbed her and dragged her into a side room, slamming the door behind him. Josie never made it out of that room alive, and her case would soon come to represent the worst of Blackwood Asylum. For decades, Blackwood continued to house the mentally ill, all the while maintaining a reputation for being understaffed, overcrowded, and brutal. Stories of mistreatment and abuse plagued the institution, making it one of the worst places to work and stay. It wasn't until 1992 that the doors of Blackwood Asylum were closed forever. At the time, the state claimed that dwindling numbers of patients was the reason for the closure. However, a closer look into the history of the asylum reveals a much darker truth. As Blackwood continued to operate throughout the 20th century, public opinion towards mental health treatment underwent a dramatic shift. People began to see mental illness as a treatable condition rather than a punishment or a curse. This led to increased scrutiny on how the mentally ill were treated. And as investigators began to uncover the horrors taking place within the walls of Blackwood, calls for its closure grew louder. Reports of mistreatment and abuse, as well as the high mortality rate, eventually forced the state to close the asylum and transfer the remaining patients to other facilities. But this wasn't the end for Blackwood. Rumors quickly began spreading that the asylum was haunted by the spirits of those who died or went missing within its walls. Many believed that the land itself was cursed, and that anyone who dared set foot on the property would be doomed to suffer the same fate as those who came before them. To this day, locals tell stories of strange occurrences at the asylum. Hikers in the nearby woods claim to have heard the sounds of screaming and shouting, while some say they've even seen shadowy figures moving through the trees. Others believe that the asylum is home to a portal to another dimension, and that the cries and screams can be heard from the other side. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain: Blackwood Asylum continues to captivate our imaginations and terrify those who dare get too close. Most of the stories surrounding Blackwood Asylum are likely nothing more than creepy tales designed to scare visitors away. However, there is one story that has captured the imagination of many. The story of Dr. Crowden. Dr. Crowden was a doctor at Blackwood Asylum during its early days, and he was known for his harsh and sometimes cruel treatment of patients. Some say he experimented on patients, while others claim he simply did nothing to help them. Regardless, Dr. Crowden came to represent everything wrong with Blackwood Asylum, and he soon became the focus of many stories and legends. After the asylum closed, rumors began to spread that Dr. Crowden's body had never been found and that he was still haunting the grounds. Some say he can be seen walking the halls at night, while others claim to have heard his voice echoing through the empty rooms. There are even stories of people who have seen his face, or what's left of it. According to legend, Dr. Crowden was disfigured in a terrible accident, and his face was burned beyond recognition. Some say that his face is still like this, while others claim that it has completely melted away, leaving him as nothing more than a pile of bones. As the years passed, the story of Dr. Crowden became intertwined with the other stories of Blackwood Asylum, and he became one of the most infamous figures associated with the place. Whether he really exists or not doesn't matter. In the minds of those who believe, he is as real as the shadows that dance in the moonlight. Like many other asylums, Blackwood Asylum was a place where the line between sanity and insanity was blurred. It was a place where people went to die. For whatever reason, the state of Tennessee chose to abandon this place rather than properly shut it down, leading to the asylum being left in complete ruin. This place is more than just a collection of broken-down buildings. It's a reminder of a time when mental illness was misunderstood, and those who suffered from it were forgotten. The history of this place is sad and disturbing, but it's important that we remember the victims and honor their memory. So next time you hear someone mention Blackwood Asylum, remember the story and the people behind it. Thanks for watching.